Hello and welcome to another episode of Ebb and Flow. As you can see today, I have a guest with me, my oh so loving and handsome hubby, Rich Adolfo. Say hi, Rich.
Hello.
And today we will be discussing 5 things to know before marriage. So, we're going to do these 5 things in order of importance to us. Number 1.
So the first thing we have on our list, because of who we are and our foundation faith-wise, I didn't want to call it spirituality, but that can also be a point. So the first point is commonality or commonalities of faith. Obviously, that's big. I have come across a few people who have suggested that is really not an issue. I have seen people who are of different faith and backgrounds, spiritual backgrounds. I have seen them, as couples. So clearly others don't see it to be something that is huge, something that really requires serious attention. But we do. And as Christians, that is the first thing that we have on our list, commonalities of faith. I need to be able to share with you certain tenets of the Christian faith, and for us to be in agreement to it. Mm-hmm. You and I, because we're Christians, we both know that Christ came to die for us. He was crucified, he resurrected, and now he sits in heavenly places. And because of that, our sins are forgiven. So we share that commonality. Mm-hmm. So although what we are doing, the 5 points are not only geared towards Christians, we, of course, for people who want to get married, but speaking from a Christian background, that will be the first thing that is on the list, commonalities of faith. The reason being is because spirituality does bind people together. So if that first point is well put together and there's a clear, conscious understanding of our spirituality, of our Christian faith, that alone is a catalyst to set us off on good grounds.
Word. And just a reminder that if you are a Christian, the Bible says you are not to be unequally yoked. So that is something really big to consider when you are marrying someone, especially on our end, woman, because the man is supposed to be the head of the household and the king of the castle and all that. But if he doesn't know how to cover you in fasting and prayer, not a good situation. So the first one was spirituality, commonality in spirituality.
Commonality in faith.
Commonality in faith
/ spirituality.
So the second point, and my husband came up with this one, and I think it was, I think he was trying to be a little shady to me. It's expenditures, just discussing the way that you spend. And actually, when we were doing premarital counseling, I remember the subject of money came up, and the pastor who was doing the counseling was like, well, how much debt are you in? You remember that?
Yeah.
He was like, how much debt are you in? And I was like, a lot. School loans, and I was kind of taken back by that question. I was just kind of like, oh, that's my personal bank account, my personal situation. But he did make the point that if you two are now going to become one, like, your debt becomes her debt and vice versa. So that was definitely an eye-opener. So it's important to know how the person spends. 6 years into the marriage, my husband and I still have differences, and I think it's based on, I don't know if it's the way we were raised or just different mentalities, but I definitely have the mentality that you should, of course, spend wisely, but if you don't have enough, like, you just need to make more money. And Rich thinks...
Yeah, good. Good point. And I'm going to pick a back off something you said regarding the loans and the debt. My perception on what Terry just spoke about is you always need to make more money. Okay, you always need to make more money. However, we are talking about debt cancellation. In order to attack debt cancellation, it's not about making more money, but rather it's about looking at what you are bringing in versus what is going out. So that is how you attack debt cancellation. So, and debt cancellation is very tied into expenditures, because you know, once again, how much is coming in versus how much is going out, and it has to be properly balanced. I remember the greatest advice I got when I came to the United States. My auntie told me that whatever job that you have, make sure 2 weeks of that paycheck can go to your rent, and you can save the one, and then the other one can go towards stuff that you need to buy and take care of. So that is a very big deal, expenditure. You need to know that you are going to be marrying someone who has common goals with you when it comes to that we're not just spending, or we're not just, you know, once again, that's a difference in opinion. And I spoke to a friend of mine, you know, very wealthy, and one of his points was spend less. But Terry's like, make more money, and it kind of makes sense in a way, right? Make more money so you can take care of the stuff you need to take care of. Exactly. It does make sense. But you know, we are talking about people who have built financial legacies, so that was an advice that I took from him. So just make sure that it's not about, you know, just making more money so you can spend it, but make sure that there is a well guided balance of what is coming in versus what is going out. And when you have that, you should be okay. She mentioned something. I think I'm already speaking on your points. I shouldn't speak on your points.
Your points are my points, baby.
Okay.
We are one.
Okay, let's finish it before the kids wake up.
Oh yeah, true.
So she mentioned something about debt. If you're gonna be getting married, and this is something we never think about. The reason why is because, for example, if you have student loans and I don't have student loans, right? Or if I have student loans and you don't have student loans, this is something we should talk about, right? Because once we get married, you will still have to pay those student loans. I'll still have to pay those student loans, and it will come out of the totality of whatever we are going to make at the end of the month.
Yes.
But people don't talk about that because they think it's too personal. How much debt do you have? Well, how personal is it going to be? We're going to be both naked in bed one day. You know, how personal can things get? You know,
right?
So I truly think we need to discuss that before marriage. You need to discuss debt. You need to discuss credit. And not only discussing it, but that should also give you some sort of, you know, non-judgmental guideline as to how this person lived their lives financially. How responsible are they? You know, there's certain people you can give them $30, and $30 they will make sure that $30 lasts them for 2 weeks, you know, so forth and so on. There's some people you can give them $30 and then it's gone before it even hits their palms. So financial responsibility, you know, tying into expenditures, you need to discuss that. It falls on point number 2.
Definitely. And I would say that in our 6 years of marriage, my perspective has definitely changed based on this conversation that we had after marriage. You know, when Rich saw there were constantly packages coming in.
Oh yeah, from Amazon.
Okay, let's not talk about Amazon. From Amazon or bags or whatever, because I spend, but I think that I spend wisely. Like I go to Nordstrom Rack off Fifth Avenue, Burlington. I don't shop anything unless it's on a sale. So I just look at it as I'm buying a lot of clothes because I need a lot of clothes, but I buy it on sale. And he's like, but how much savings do you have? And I was like, just make more money. So again, discussing credit, because you two do have to get a house or apartment or whatever you're moving in together. After the marriage, discussing credit, debt, and how you spend and save is of utmost importance. So number three, we are discussing lifestyle, and it's a very broad topic. But what made me think about this is when I was dating Richard, he lived in New Jersey, I lived in New York. So, you know, when you're first dating and you're just all into each other, butterflies, and you just want to see each other as much as you could, you know, you just want to be around each other all the time. Well, for us, what was more realistic was seeing each other on the weekends, because obviously during the week we both worked. So every weekend we were seeing each other, right? But I'm also part of a sorority, have a great, group of friends. So there will be a lot of social activities that transpire on the weekends, if not like concerts or whatever, I'm an artist as well. So that kind of became a default to this weekend. Maybe we cannot go out on a date within ourselves, by ourselves, but we may have to go to a baby shower or a birthday party, and he was with it. He was, it was like Terry Rich, really cute. Yeah. After we got married, I was like, babe, so-and-so's having a birthday party. He's like, yeah, I'm not going. Next weekend, babe, there's a baby shower. I'm not going. Oh, babe, so-and-so's having a concert. I'm not going.
Yeah, that's a dent, right? That could really be a dent.
Huh. So I then found out this man's an introvert. He's an introvert. He'll rather sit at home in the comfort of our home and like watch a movie. And clearly I am the extrovert. I love going out. I love restaurants. I just love going out. So come to find out the man was an introvert. And I was like, but you used to go with me. And he's like, but I mean, that was the only way I could see you because I lived in Jersey.
I don't think that's how I put it, but
it's the nice way. He said that was the only way we could see each other. So if you're going to a birthday party Saturday night,
I think that's how I put it.
I'm going to a birthday Saturday night, by default. But once I got you and we're married,
I didn't say that.
This is my interpretation.
No, well, even if we were, which we didn't, but even if we were living together before we got married, you would have seen that because then you live with the person.
Right, so. But we're talking about like the godly way, right? You're not supposed to be shacked up with somebody. So
of course not.
You were living in another state. I was still at my mama's house, right? So I found out afterwards that he was an introvert, and of course, that really put a dent in for me because I'm just like, ooh, let's go to the restaurant that we can see the skyline. And he was like, let's save money and stay in and watch Netflix. Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, a whole lot.
Proceed.
So the thing is, first and foremost, that is very good too, because you may not think about it before you get married. You know, because our example is a perfect example because we were always going out. I'm in New Jersey, she's in New York. The only way to see her is to take her out. We went out a lot.
We went out so much.
I checked my bank account
before marriage.
I checked my bank account one day. I couldn't believe it. There are times that we had gone out, and I enjoyed each moment with her, so it didn't really matter to me.
Very good save.
But I'm just for accounting purposes, we had gone out a lot. And I always took her out to very nice places.
Yes, you did, babe.
So they weren't cheap food. So you look at it and you're like,
a lot of lobster.
You look at it, you're like, wow, okay, well, I enjoyed each moment, whatever. But the thing is, the reason why I think our example is very good for you to think about is, you would have never detected it.
No,
you would have.
I didn't detect it.
Yeah, you would have never detected that this person is an introvert and that they don't like going out. Well, I shouldn't say they don't like, because that's really extreme.
Okay.
I shouldn't say I don't like going. I love traveling.
You do.
And the thing is this too. I have to. You see, I think I'm an introvert only when my innermost being don't really approve where we're going. The reason why I'm saying that is because I love traveling.
Excuse me.
If someone gives me like, if American Airlines gives me like a lifetime, pass, oh man, I'm going everywhere with you, right? So it's not really a matter of being an introvert, but just you're definitely an extrovert, way more than I can ever be when it comes to, once again,
I think so.
I love traveling, but once we get there, I don't like going almost everywhere.
He'll be in the hotel. I'm just like, well, why do we come?
Yeah, but the thing too is, when you have these two kids, you want to rest when you go out. You know what I mean? So that's also another thing. Right, but we did
pay to go out.
So yeah, so you have to check that out too. We put that under point number 3, being lifestyle. We first wanted to call it what? Introvert
versus extrovert.
But that sort of kind of constricts it to that particular topic alone, and it's bigger than that. When I talk lifestyle, for example, let's say you're 35, you're 40 years. Well, I hope if you want to get married at 40, that's fine.
Why not?
That's what I said. That's fine.
Oh, okay.
So let's say you're 20, you get married at 30, right? From up to that point of you getting married of 30 years, you have lived a particular life whether being shaped by your guardians or your parents or shaped by whoever that raised you, you have been guarded by that particular, you have been shaped by that particular guidance, right? So you have your own ways.
Definitely.
You have your own ways. It's not necessarily wrong. It's not necessarily right, but you just have your own ways. That is your makeup.
And the older, the worse.
Oh yeah. As I say, old people are rude. Or old people, just
they're
don't
set
have filters.
in their ways. Yeah.
So they're not rude. So yeah, think about that. You have your lifestyle before you met this person, and this person also have their lifestyle. Well, what betides both of you if your lifestyles are totally opposite?
Truth.
Without any solid foundation. And the reason, what I mean by that is, it can be totally opposite, but with a good foundation. And based on that good foundation, you can reason, and you can say, all right, I can compromise this. You can compromise this, and we can make it work. So based on a good foundation, it can happen. And the reason I brought lifestyle up is like you I don't want to talk about this one because maybe I'm not mentioning names. Before we started filming, I was telling my wife about somebody that I used to see in the past, and this person from head to toe is like model right? Like every man on the street is gonna stop her.
She look better than me?
She definitely doesn't.
Okay.
So I paid a visit to her home, and you can tell when somebody like rushed out because they had an appointment, and based upon that they could not clean their home or whatever the case may be. This was not it. It's like the walls were filthy, the floors, everything was filthy. And I categorized that in lifestyle as well, because that is also how you've been shaped all your life, or maybe after college, I don't know. So that is also branded in lifestyle. And I like using the word branded because that's what it feels like. You've been branded with some hot iron for 20 years and you're set in that way. So you definitely need to check lifestyle. And we started with introvert, extrovert because that's all part of it. But things like that too, those things matter. And for me, maybe this point may not be right, but how someone keeps their home is certainly how do I put it? How they keep their home is certainly part of how they react with the outside world. Yeah. So it also has something to do with how they react with, their children if they have children. You know what I mean? So it is an important thing, lifestyle. And this lifestyle thing is so big, I don't want us to keep talking about it, else we're going to miss we'll speak too much on the other points. It just spreads. It spreads with everything. I
like the point of, I was in full artist mode when I met Richard. So that was something for him to consider too. And he's been in filmmaker mode since I met him. So what does that mean? Like, okay, when we get married, there may be 1 or 2 weeks that I'm not going to see you because you're traveling to do a film. When we get married, I mean, 3 out of the 7 nights, I may be in the studio. Like, that's just what we are. So we had to understand each other's occupation as well. Certain habits that you have, good or bad, you guys need to discuss that. I'll never forget, and this is kind of separate, but I'll never forget when a good friend of mine called me and she was literally freaking out. I was like, girl, what's wrong? She was like, he puts the ketchup in the fridge. Why would you put ketchup in the fridge? They had just moved in, and it was the funniest thing. Who eats cold ketchup? That's okay. Here's the compromise. You guys buy 2.
Buy 2.
One is in the fridge, one is on the counter. But yeah, these are all things to discuss when we're talking about lifestyle.
And also for single men, because for most men, right? Most men, boys as they call it, boys will always be boys in a sense of, I came from a single lifestyle. I was not like, I was not in an active relationship for long, I don't know why,
oh, you know why.
But she's, she's the one that I set my eyes on, right? So the thing is this, right? I came from a single man background, man, I would sleep on my couch, I'll turn on the TV, I'll fall asleep on my couch. It's like You have a bed, whether whether you do or you don't have a bed, the
gel
couch
mattress.
Yeah, the couch was your best friend, you know. And then you grow out of this, and now you become a married man, and sometimes you find yourself sleeping on the couch.
Still,
not because I do sleep on the couch. Not because your wife is putting you out of the bedroom, but it's because you have it's like a level of comfortability that you need to understand that it won't work whether it's comfortable or not, right?
It won't work.
So there are times where I'll fall asleep on the bed, I'll fall asleep on the couch, and then wake up in the middle of the night to go to bed.
Or be woken up in the middle of the night.
Sometimes you have to come and wake me up. So these things are kind of minute. However, it doesn't help to complete the perfect picture, if there is a perfect picture. So yeah, these are all lifestyle things. Right?
And the last thing I want to say about that, especially when you talked about being a bachelor, I had to realize, afterwards, like certain things just annoyed the bejesus out of me. I was just like, oh my gosh, how is it that you can sleep? I cannot sleep without a fitted sheet. A fitted sheet or a flat sheet. So there'll be times where I will be doing laundry, I take all the sheets off, and the mat is just on the mat. How can you sleep without a fitted sheet? And then when I put the fitted sheet on, I have to have the flat sheet between the comforter.
She sure has to.
He can just lay with the I'm just like,
I can. And see that the thing too is this, like there is, as they say, there are levels to this, right? And that's where lifestyle. Well, we're still on lifestyle. Yeah. That's why it's so important, because you don't know the life changing events that took place in that person's life. For me, it was coming to America at 18 years old. My father stayed with me for a year, and he left to go back to England. Right? So here I am by myself in an apartment by myself, trying to figure everything out. Trying to figure out how to save, trying to figure out how to tie a tie, and somebody at the laundromat had to teach me. Wow. So there are all of these things that help shape the person. Now they can shape them and shape them well. However, it leaves certain stains, after it touches them and shapes them, it leaves certain marks on them. And one of those marks was the hustler mark. Hey, I got a full-time job. We both have to look this way because we heard it sound. We thought it was our
children waking up.
We've got I've got a full-time job. This guy is renting his basement apartment for $200 a month. Oh, I can go there. I could save a lot of money, which I did. And then so it's that hustler mentality. Well, it doesn't really look like a place where I can live. What's fine? We're gonna make it work. But thankfully, that's not what I do with my family, because I know I want my family to be comfortable. But that's where I came from. I came from that hustler mentality where, it don't look good. Well, we're going to make it work. We're going to save all of that money, and we're going to do something with that money. Or, that's all I want to say. So the past of that individual, the way the past touched that individual to help mold and shape them, it left this mark. So sometimes it's kind of hard to get those inks off.
So you in hustler mode, you don't care about fitted sheets, flat sheets.
No. I do now, but check this out. I gotta be honest with you. I really have to be honest with you.
Be honest.
I do appreciate it. I gotta tell you the truth. There are times where sometimes I fall asleep on the couch, or you go outside the house, and I go into the bedroom and I see the bed is made and all of these things.
That's how you raise. You don't leave the house without making up your bed. Correct.
So it's a lifestyle that, and it's good, because it helps you appreciate things. If I came from that life, well, let me put it this way. First and foremost, my mother was no joke. But the thing is, for a period of 10 years, 13 years, I wasn't raised under my mother's care. So the thing is, yes, up to the age of 14, 15, before I traveled, of course, my mother was no joke. She comes into your room and your room is not clean, you are in trouble. So I am a clean individual. But the hustle underneath all of that was still there. It's like, man, it's all right. Sleep on the couch, rent an office, turn it into your bedroom and into your, man, who cares? That was the hustle. That was the hustle, So yeah, we can move on. There's so much we can speak on this, but let's move on.
This should have been a vlog all by itself. So as you can see, we have an additional guest who just woke up and has joined us. Say hi.
Uh-oh.
Nope, she's not ready yet.
Hi.
She's still sleeping. Say hi.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, she looks drunk. So as we were talking about, number 3 is cultural differences. I came up with this one as the Ghanaian American who has married the Ghanaian. That's it. Culture plays a huge role in marriage because, as my husband said before, there are certain things that shape your mentality, right? Your environment shapes your mentality. It is part of who you are and who you have grown to be. So for me, even though my father was Ghanaian, I feel like my father was the opposite of what you would usually see, whether it's on TV or in the Bronx. You know, my father was a very quiet and gentle soul who washed dishes. He cooked. He cooked, you know, he was just like, he picked my mom up, he dropped her up. He was just very whatever. So when I met Richard, and we took, and he wooed me off of my feet. One of the first things I said to him was, listen, I'm not domesticated. I'm just not.
So you're wild?
I'm not. No. Am I using the wrong word?
No.
I mean, I am wild. Sorry. I was like, listen, I'm not domesticated, okay? I believe in this 2012, 2013. I'm one of those modern women. I love to serve my husband. I will cook. I will clean. I run your bath water, all of that. But understand that I do believe that men, okay, need to be able to cook. And you need to be able to help me cook and help me clean and help me take care of the kids. We're not doing that. I go out, I make the money, I come home, I put my feet up on this couch that he loves so much while I'm slaving in the kitchen. No. That's one of the first things, And he was just like, okay. Like, I cook. My husband's actually a better cook than me. He was like, I don't mind cooking for myself. And through him, I actually learned a lot more about the Ghanaian culture. So I think that is a very important point, that if you happen to marry someone from a different culture, you should understand their belief system, understand the mentalities, so that you guys wouldn't clash, especially when there's a language barrier. See, my husband understood that I grew up in a house that obviously the main language was English. But what's the matter? You want milk? No? Okay. But I also grew up feeling very separated from my father and his daughters, which are my stepsisters, because when they got together, obviously in their comfortability, they would speak Tree. So it was very common for me to be in a home or visiting my father's friends, and I understand nothing that's being said. Sorry for the interruption, parents. So yeah, I would used to be in a house where I was just sitting there like. So that's another thing that I told my husband about, and I was just like, I would appreciate if your friends come around, your family come around, if you are going to speak to you, I'll never take you out of your comfort zone, but at least let me know, like, what is the subject matter? So I'm not just sitting here like, and one of my fears, I'm going to be honest, was me not knowing how to cook Ghanaian food. A way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And I was just like, I can't cook Ghanaian food either, babe. He was like, oh, it's not gonna bother me. And deep down in my heart, I was like, I don't believe you, because at the end of the day, you're gonna want your cultural food. Like, I love Ghanaian food. I love Guyanese food. Like, I love a good curry, and you crave for that. And I was actually very nervous that is one thing that will pull us apart once we got married, because a man will say anything in that period. Yep. You'll tell the girl anything that she wants to hear to make her feel secure, and then you get married and it's a whole different situation. So that was one of my fears.
I mean, it is true that, of course the man wants you to feel secure. first and foremost, there's this awesome scripture that Paul talks about. Well, he talks about food. He basically saying that food should not be a reason why I should offend someone, or someone should be offended with my actions. They were talking about eating pork versus not eating pork, or certain meats. He's like, food is not that big of a deal. And it's so funny that sometimes when I crave Ghanaian foods, or I crave foods that I was birthed into, literally, birthed into, that's what you're fed with, or in your mama's stomach, right? When I crave those foods and I want them, but they're not in the house, I think about that scripture. I'm serious. I think about that as in, is food something that should cause someone to be offended? Now, when I'm hungry, that's a different issue, because I believe everybody can attest to it. You do not want to be hungry and trying to figure out what you want to eat. But yeah, that is also part of culture. Yeah. And I think that honestly, there's so many things that we grow up knowing that we don't do these things. However, for the sake of how much I love this person, I figure how to do it. I think it's not a huge part. At the end of the day, if you can't get it in the house, just go and buy it from a restaurant. How many times do you could carry it home?
Oh, not quite often.
Exactly. So you just stop by Genevieve's on Jamaica Avenue and you get it, right? So the cultural difference is definitely I would say goes further beyond the culinary department.
Yeah, we talked about the language, and just I think the main thing is the mentality. The mentality of a person. I was grateful when I found out that Richard is like my father. He's not one of those traditional, what we see in the movies as Ghanaian men. I cannot, oh my God, I can't tell you the amount of jokes that I heard when people found out about Richard and that he was Ghanaian, because I didn't do the whole Facebook in a relationship now. I just think it was like, it went from single to maybe engaged, because our engagement thing was all over Facebook. People were like, who's this? Oh, he's Ghanaian. Ooh, girl, you about to have 15 babies. He's going to have you cooking barefoot.
People said that?
Yeah, I just didn't tell you because I don't want you to be big mad. But all of the stereotypes of an African man.
Are they married now?
Like,
those people still? I was just trying to check if they were married. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I had to pause at the shade. But it's not their fault. It's their... That was so bad.
Shade so strong, my daughter's smiling. All right, keep going.
I'm sorry. This is what we go through every day in the house. So what was I saying, Jesus? Yeah, so the amount of jokes that came with just like the stereotypes. But thank God he was like, he's a modern day Ghanaian contemporary man, so it's all goody in the hoodie. And last but not least, we're talking about disciplining children. Funny enough, when Rich and I got married, we never discussed children. I think the only thing we said about children is we're waiting 2 years because we're both creatives. At that point, I was ready to quit my Department of Education job and do the artistry full time, and he was already a full time creative. So we were just like, yo, we about to do the darn thing, right? And then 4 months later, I was like, hey, babe, guess what? I'm pregnant. Thank you, honey. So children was never something that was really discussed because everything happened so quickly. We did know that we wanted children, right? I don't think we even discussed how many. We just knew that it was my desire to have children eventually, and it was also his desire to have children. So when the children were born, and we had to start training them, I was just like, oh, babe, okay, about this beating situation. And that can come from cultural discipline as well, right? Because my brothers definitely got beat by my father. Wow, the girls, he didn't touch us though. So there was that also imbalance in my home because the boys got beat, right, by my African father. And he would just talk to the girls because we were all princesses. And my mother never beat me. She doesn't believe in beatings. I got that look though. I definitely got that West Indian look. So I didn't even need a beating because by the time the woman looked at me with that look, I was done. I was straightened up. So that is the way that I desired to raise our children. With just, of course, you reprimand them, but I wanted the look to work for me too. Now, my husband, on the other hand, grew up a certain way, and he believes in corporal punishment. But we also had to realize that in this day and age, unfortunately, children have rights. And God forbid he goes to, I'm saying that in the sense of God forbid he goes to school and it's
I just want to put it unfortunately. I think they should have rights because they're human beings.
Okay. Yeah, but I told you about that time when I saw a police officer following a mother and a son because the mother was reprimanding the child for something that he did, and the police officer started following her to see what she was going to do. Mm-hmm. You're disciplining your child. Mm-hmm. And in this day and age, if you don't discipline your child, your police will discipline your child, especially as a black person, in a way that you don't want. Mm-hmm. So, I say unfortunately because I believe that corporal punishment is okay. I don't believe a child should be physically abused.
Yes.
Definitely not. But if you need a papa on your hand, I as a parent should have a right to do that. But if I as a parent do that to you and you go and you tell your teacher, my father put hands on me, that's an ACS case. And then also in this day and age, children, they're coming out smarter. They're coming out smart, and we had to realize with our firstborn, with Ezra, that he responded better to speaking to him about why he should not have done that, as opposed to just like, I'm just gonna beat you and tell you not to do it again, like we were raised back in my days. They think more logically. So when we explain to Ezra, you shouldn't touch the fire because fire is dangerous. And if fire touches you, it can burn you and it's really hot. He's never attempted to touch the stove after that because he understood it. As opposed to, don't touch it. I said don't touch it.
Yeah.
And children can be naturally rebellious. Well, I'm going to touch him to see what you're going to do. No, from that time, he's never touched it. And we speak to him. Now, sometimes he just has to get a little pop on his hand, indefinitely. But again, he responds more to logically understanding why he did why it was wrong for him to have done what he did.
Yeah, I think I actually don't even beat my son anymore. I don't remember the last time and that he got any sort of punishment, whether it be a pow on guys, your host will be right back. She has to do stuff. So I don't remember the last time that that my son Ezra got punished, any sort of punishment at all. That will be considered, whether beating of a child or the reason being is because he has been trained to respond to certain things, and we as parents have to know what works for him. All children are not the same, so you can't give the same amount of treatment to every single child. It's just not going to work. You can give the same amount of response or the same kind of response to every single child. It's just not going to work. So with our son, with Ezra, I personally got to a place I was like, I don't need to touch him. I don't need to give him papa. I don't need to do any of this because he's sensible enough to understand things that, does he get yelled at? Oh yeah, he does. But things like, beating up a child or any unorthodox type of parenting, with him. He hit a certain age. I just didn't need to do it again. Mm-hmm. He responds very well. The reason why we made this point, the last point, is not every single couple out there that would want to have children.
Right.
So therefore, that's not on the top first two or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's about it.
That's all. 5 things that you should know before marriage. Join us for the next vlog, part 2 of the marriage series, right? 5 myths about marriage.
Yeah, that one is good.
That was gonna be funny. All right, so comment, share, and subscribe. This is the Adult Foes. This is us. This is us, right, boo?
It's a wrap.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Love you all. Ciao.